Welcome back. American veterans of Igbo descent has called on the Nigerian government to restore the 1960 to 1963 regional autonomy to prevent the country's collapse, while also urging the immediate release of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. They also addressed his earlier demands, which they believe would restore trust in the government and benefit the Southeast region. And joining us to discuss this and other sundry national issues is Senior Lecturer, International Economic Law, University of Derby, Dr. Obiajunwa Ama. Doctor, it's good to have you with us. So let's, yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm happy to be here.
Very good. So let's delve right into this. Talking about regional autonomy, is that a viable option? And can we go back to the narratives that made us adopt the current federal system of government, which we borrowed from the United States?
Thank you so much. I believe at this point in time, the clamor for regional autonomy is not necessary, really. If you look at in recent times, many countries of the world are moving towards multilateralism and harmonization with other countries. And so domestically, Nigeria have no reason to go back to things that happened, the practice of governance 60 years ago or 50 years ago. I think what we need is to find reasons why the current system is not functioning well and then reform them. I'm not going back to regionalism. I believe regionalism will set the country back to making the regions much more powerful, and that can lead to the issues that also led to that caused the Civil War in 1967. Yes, the United Kingdom has recently left the European Union, but you will find out that the UK is still in close relationship, trade and economic relationship with the European Union. The African continent have recently signed the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and also negotiating currently for the investment protocol. So people are trying to get together. And I believe that the Nigerian state should sit down, look at the functioning processes so far. What are the aspects that are working? What are the aspects that are not working? And then reform it instead of having to go back to regionalism. Because one of the ingredients that led to the Civil War is the regionalism practice then, because the regions, some of them became more powerful. And as it continued, they began to see themselves as different from the broader Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the regionalism argument also, I believe, is being clamored by people that have had an opportunity to steer the country on the path to sustainable development, but have failed to do so. And so Abuja is no longer containing them now, and they want to go back to regions where they think they can have much more space within their regions. But the question is, if the anticipated developments have not been achieved in Abuja, in the federal system, what is the confidence that when people go back to their regions, or when there is a much more devolution of powers to regions, then all of a sudden, the same actors that are not able to do many things within the federal system will then do those things in their regions. In any case, if you look at the constitution of the country, you will find out that there is so much that the regions can do, even though it's on a state-by-state basis, but there's nothing that says that regions cannot get together and look at issues within their region and within the confines of the federal constitution, and then pursue those developmental agenda.
I don't know if you can hear me, Dr. Obiajunwa Ama.
Yes,
because apparently
yes,
from your take, you do not support this going back to the 1960 Constitution. And those who are advocating for this going back to the regionalization and all, they're saying that this would help regions to look inwards and boost their resources and also create room for competition amongst the regions. You are saying that this current situation should be looked at, the solution should be looked at in another way. But what would you say about the fact that they're saying that power is too centralized and it needs to be decentralized so that states can now begin to work towards boosting their IGR and contributing to the GDP of the country.
Well, I tend to disagree that there is over-concentration of power at the federal level, because in every country of the world, you always have the exclusive legislative list, you will have the concurrent legislative list, and the residual legislative list. In most federal democracies, and also those that practice the presidential system of government. Even in the UK here, where there is the parliamentary system, yes, there are devolved powers. But the question is, if you look at our federal constitution, are there powers that have been devolved to states and local governments? Yes, there are. So what has limited their implementation? Those are calling for a new constitution. I don't think we need a new constitution because the basis for the new constitution, the arguments that they have made is not reasonable argument. I've heard people say that the current constitution is a creation of the military. But I've always asked some people, is it the military that have been implementing the current constitution since 1999? It has been civilians. There's also the argument that the people did not get together to bring about the current constitution. And I ask a question again. The national conference that was held in 2014, what have we made of it? There's also the Parliament of the People, the National Assembly, that have reformed the current constitution once. Those limitations or those defects that have been identified, why have they not been corrected? So having to say power is concentrated in Abuja is simply what I call the Nigerian way of looking at things, or the Nigerian way of trying to solve problems. First and foremost, there are powers that have been devolved to the states and local governments. How far and how well? Those powers that are concentrated in Abuja are normal things that should be within the purview of the federal government for the proper administration of the country. What are they? Airspace, security, waterways, and things like that. The question is, if you devolved some of these things to the states, do they have the capacity to implement them? Yes, there is a current clamor for state police. I would think that would be a very bad thing to do for there to be state police. For the reason because I don't think our political culture and system is such that state police will function. We know that since 1999, the federal government of Nigeria have been the only functional level of government within Nigerian context. State governors have simply not abided by the constitution in terms of their powers. And we see it in the many vigilantes that they create. When they create vigilante groups and control them, they use it to antagonize people, to illegally infringe on the rights of people in their states. So I think the problem we should look at in terms of security and policing in the country is to ask ourselves, what are the problems? Why is the current federal police not functioning well? We can easily identify them. Lack of adequate resources and equipment and personnel and training and all that. So I think to solve problem, we need to solve problem in a more reasonable way and not, oh, we have a problem with policing, let's create a state police. We have a problem with the lack of quick dispensation of justice. Let's put more judges in the judiciary. No, that's not how to solve problems in a country.
Dr. Obiajiwa, if I may come in, yes, you've made a very interesting, point there. But let's go back to that group who are actually calling for, going back to the old ways of doing things regarding the regional autonomy. The AVID group, can you explain how the group sees the relationship between Nnamdi Kanu's demands and the broader calls for restructuring in Nigeria, which has been gaining a lot of traction recently? I'd like your thoughts on that, please.
I think the demands of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is not different from the demands of the other regions. In recent times, just a few years ago, the South were demanding for a broader share of the national resources. And those clamoring also led to the creation of the Niger Delta Development Commission and thereafter the Amnesty Program. So there's always going to be regional agitations, regions in a federal system, in a multi-ethnic federal system. There's always going to be regional agitations. But the problem is such agitations must be within the confines of the law. We have to understand that the reason why Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's agitation and all that is a feeling of discontent by the people of the Southeast Nigeria that they've not been treated well within the Federal Republic. And so what does the Federal Republic need to do? The Federal Republic need to look at those things in the second schedule of the Constitution and also look at the idea of federal character principle, which is also in the Constitution, and ask itself a question: have we been able to implement the federal character principle in terms of extending development equally all around the country, all around the regions within the country? Of course, an objective observer will say no, that the Southeast have not been treated equally within the, within the confines of the federal character principle. And so you can then say, all right, what can we do? What are the low-hanging fruits can we do to assure the people of Southeast Nigeria that they are part and parcel of the Federal Republic? The Nigerian state must always know that countries must always discuss with its citizens, all parts of its citizens, where there is a need for apologies extended to such citizens and parts of the citizens. There's nothing wrong with saying we are sorry that we've got this practice wrong. We've done this for a long time. And specifically on Nnamdi Kanu, it's always, I think it's common sense that ideological problems are not only solved through sending of the military or arresting people. If you look at the issue of the Southeast, it was firstly began with Odumegwu Ojukwu, and then thereafter, I think Wazirike came on board. He was arrested too. Thereafter, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu came on board. He was arrested, and then we have Simon Ekpa. He has not been arrested. The Nigerian state should know by now that if you have been arresting people and the agitation in the Southeast have not been solved, then there needs to now be a different method. It should be common sense now that arresting people will not solve the problem of agitation in the Southeast, because another person will take up the course and the people will follow the same person. So what you have to do now is to change course. Ask yourself. All
right, Dr. Obiajowa, we have to leave the conversation here. Thank you for the succinct and apt contribution to this topic. We know that it is an ongoing conversation and it has to be discussed on a broader level so that we can reach a solution for the Nigeria's problems. Well, thank you so much for your time. Dr. Obiajowa Ama is Senior Lecturer, International Economic Law, University of Derby.